Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2020 comedy horror film Vampires vs. the Bronx, a film that is co-written and directed by Osmani Rodriguez, and it stars Jaden Michael, Gerald Jones III, Gregory Diaz IV, Sarah Gordon, Method Man, Shea Wingham and Coco Jones. Now, this story tells the tale of three kids from the Bronx who discover a group of vampires who have moved in and are buying up all the local real estate. And the reason for this is because nobody seems to care about the Bronx. They think they can feed on the human population without anyone really giving a damn about that. However, these three kids discover them and decide it is their job to put a stop to this. Right, so that's the premise of the film. What do I think of Vampires versus the Bronx? I always like a good vampire film. I don't mind comedy horror when it's done right. So there was a lot here that I was actually looking forward to. I have to say, after watching the film, I am a little bit disappointed with the end product here. I think it, at times, copies too much from other films. It's almost like a weird blend, this film, of Vampire in Brooklyn, the Eddie Murphy film, Fright Night, and The Monster Squad with an urban twist. It takes ingredients from all those three films, I think, and stirs them up in a pot, and what we get is something that tries to put, like I say, its own spin and originality on it, but I think it fails for the most part, mainly due to some predictable dialogue and a distinct lack of genuine scares and real comedy as well. It's somewhere in the middle in regards to its scares and its comedy. I certainly didn't find myself chuckling or laughing out loud very often at all. It's mildly amusing at best, certainly to me. And while I did enjoy the vampire effects, I thought they were excellent actually. I don't feel as though they did enough with that. They didn't make them, certainly for me, particularly scary. And to say these creatures have been around for many, many centuries and survived for so long, to be bettered by, three kids basically from the Bronx, it just seemed like these vampires were a little bit too easy to take down, some of them, and it was just a bit, I don't know, unrewarding, I suppose, at times. I mean, films like Monster Squad, you felt like there was a real threat there, and it was actually quite scary at times. The same with Fright Night, with a lot of comedy mixed into that, but it's a real classic film because of the very core of it. It's very frightening too. And I suppose the most flawed one there is The Vampire in Brooklyn, the Eddie Murphy one, but there are elements of that film that works as well. It was just difficult to see Eddie Murphy trying to be scary, I suppose, but that film was probably aged better than when it first came out in regards to the public opinion of it when it was first released. So I think in a lot of areas this film just couldn't keep up with those films, but that's not to say it's not fun at times. The kids, I actually think they're acting, they're obviously young actors just getting into the business, and they were all very good in what they did. I believed them as these friends. You've got these two that are really tight, and this other one who wants to be tight and wants to stick with them, but is being drawn into, the gangs and things like that. So there's all that going on. There's a dynamic, this relationship between them and then the parents, and trying to. You really got the feeling of this camaraderie in this neighbourhood. Excuse me. Of the Bronx, this real neighbourhood vibe and feel of these kids trying to do the best for their neighbourhood. So it was really good at projecting all of that, the film. It just the transition from these three kids living their lives innocently, trying to, raise some money to help the local businesses because they're all being bought out by this vampire clan, if you like, who are buying all the real estate. To go from these three innocent kids to 1 minute doing what they're doing, and then the next minute, okay, vampires are real. They take to it a little bit too easily. Remember Fright Night, the sheer panic when he discovered that he had a vampire living next door to him. It was real terror and fear. And I never really got that from these kids. Yes, they were scared at times, but they weren't scared enough to go into a building that they suspected where the vampires were hiding, to discover the coffins and things like that, and to take them on at the end of the film and stuff. It didn't really ever feel like they were deeply terrified of the scenario and situation that they were in. So it's okay, this. There's lots of predictable dialogue. The storyline's predictable. The film itself is quite predictable. You can map it out in your head what you think is going to happen, and you're pretty much right. So it's certainly watchable, but I think it is a little bit flawed from my perspective. So those are my thoughts on Vampires versus the Bronx. It's on Netflix right now. It is worth checking out. It's not a bad film or anything. It is certainly watchable and enjoyable for the most part. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I was just hoping for a little bit more from this film. I think because Netflix, generally speaking, have done really well with their movies, certainly over the last couple of years. And when you compare this to The Babysitter, which is another comedy horror, and even the sequel to that, I think it falls short. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked this review. If you did, please click the like button, and I will of course be back with more content and reviews on Screen Stars very, very soon.